by political parties, which includes the date of encashment and denomination. That details we have, Manoj. That we can give. In 3 weeks, we'll put it all together.
You require 3 weeks for what, Mr. Sarvi?
Manoj, these are all in because the accounts are separate, the payment has come separately and the name was kept separately. We'll marry the two and give it.
The political parties have already given the details of the encashments made by them.
Correct, Manoj. So that in any case is there.
Yes.
As far as B is concerned, we can give it.
Details also are already available with you.
I'm sorry, Manoj.
You're working on with regard to the purchasers, the donors, and the details of amount they have purchased. These details are already available.
Yes, so that we can give, Manoj. We'll just put that figures together and give. The trouble is, Manoj, we understood B and C meant that we had to give a complete correlation of who bought how much was received, how much was given to whom, and with which bank, or rather which party encashed it from which bank. That bridge was creating that difficulty, Manoj. If you don't have to give that matching.
Right, what we'll do is we'll dictate an order.
Yes.
Before your lordship.
After we dictate it, if there's something which remains, you can tell us. By a judgment dated
15th February.
No, 15th February. By a judgment dated 15 February 2024, this court declared the electoral bond scheme and the provisions of the Finance Act 2017, which amended the provisions of the Representation of the People Act 1951 and the Income Tax Act 1961 unconstitutional on the ground that the non-disclosure of information regarding the funding of political parties is violative of the right to information of citizens under Article 19, bracket 1, bracket A of the Constitution. Full stop. The amendments which were introduced by the Finance Act 2017 to the provisions of the Companies Act 2013, permitting unlimited funding of political parties by corporate entities were held to be arbitrary and violative of Article 14 of the Constitution. Full stop. Next para. In order to give full effect to the judgment which was rendered by the Constitution Bench, this court directed the State Bank of India, footnote SBI, which was the authorized bank to deal with electoral bonds under the electoral bond scheme, to submit details of the electoral bonds purchased by the contributors and redeemed by political parties between 12 April 2019, into brackets, the date on which an interim order was passed by this court directing the Election Commission of India, footnote ECI, to collect details of the contributions, bracket, till 15 February 2024, bracket, the date of the judgment. Full stop. This court directed SBI to submit the following details by 6 March 2024 to the ECI. A, details of each electoral bond purchased, including the date of purchase, the name of the purchaser, and the denomination of the electoral bond, semicolon, and B, details of each electoral bond redeemed by political parties, including the date of encashment and the denomination of the electoral bond. Stop. The ECI was directed to collate the information which was to be submitted by the SBI and publish it on its website by 13 March 2024. Let's stop. The directions of this court are extracted below, colon, आप copy कर लीजिए, para 219 at page 76.
Right. So 2 page.
Para
Lord, it's 221, page 76 of the application.
the SCC has a, all right, आप ऐसा कर लीजिए, ये para ऐसा है 219, 221 जो भी आप ले लीजिए. It may be on SCC online, it's 221. The para
Yes.
begins with the words, in view of our discussion above.
Yeah, yes.
Okay, the following directions are issued, and the last word which you will copy down is the purchaser's account. Okay. SBI filed a miscellaneous application before this court 2 days before the expiry of the deadline, seeking an extension of time until 30 June 2024 for complying with the directions. Full stop. The petitioners before this court, Association for Democratic Reforms, and the Communist Party of India, bracket Marxist, bracket, instituted contempt proceedings, instituted a petition invoking the contempt jurisdiction of this court against SBI for an alleged willful disobedience of the order of this court. Full stop. In support of the application by SBI, I've heard Mr. Harish N. Salve, Learned Senior Counsel. Full stop. Mr. Salve submitted that the information which was which was received by the SBI was maintained in 2 separate silos and were maintained with the utmost secrecy so as to fulfill the core purpose of the electoral bond scheme. Full stop. Learned Counsel submitted that if the disclosure is to be made of the information required to be submitted by SBI to ECI in the separate silos which are referred to in B and C of the operative directions, there would be no difficulty in SBI doing so, which, it has been indicated, would be completed within 3 weeks. However, it has been submitted that the difficulty of SBI arose since it construed the directions of this court in requiring it to carry out a matching exercise to match the donor details, the donor and bond details, with the corresponding details pertaining to encashment by political parties. Full stop. While evaluating the submission which has been made on behalf of SBI, a reference to some of the key aspects of the scheme would be in order at this stage. Full stop. Clause 7(4) of the electoral bond scheme stipulates that the information furnished by the buyer of an electoral bond shall be treated as confidential by the authorized bank and shall be disclosed only when called upon to do so by a competent court or upon the registration of an offense by a law enforcement agency. Full stop. Thus, in terms of the provisions of the electoral bond scheme itself, SBI is SBI is mandated to disclose information when demanded by a court. Full stop. What remains to be seen, what has to be analyzed is whether SBI is justified in seeking an extension of time. Next. SBI seeks an extension of time on the ground that the process of open inverted commas decoding the electoral bonds and matching the donor to the donations into inverted commas complete is a complex and time-consuming exercise. Full stop. To substantiate this argument, SBI has averred that, next line, A, information is not available in a digital format. Yeah, underline kar dijiye. Clause 7.1.2 of the standard operating procedure regarding the sale and redemption of electoral bonds stipulates that, into inverted commas, no details of bond purchaser, including KYC and other details, will be entered in the core banking system, into inverted commas complete. Thus, the details of the purchases of bonds are not available centrally, B, the donor details and recipient details are available in two separate silos. Ye underline kar lijiye, the details of the purchasers of the electoral bonds were kept in a sealed cover at the designated branch. These sealed covers were deposited in the main branch of SBI in Mumbai, at the end of each phase of the issuance of the electoral bonds, full stop, the information on the redemption of electoral bonds, into brackets, that is the original bond and the pay-in slip, bracket, were stored in a sealed cover and sent to the SBI, Mumbai branch. Semicolon. C. Matching of information in the two silos is a time-consuming process. Underline kariye, colon. The matching of the information on the purchase and redemption of electoral bonds would be time-consuming since donor information and redemption information is maintained in two distinct silos independent of each other, semicolon. D, there is a large there is a large number of data sets to decipher, underline, colon. A total of 22,000 odd, I'll give you the figure.
22,217.
A total of 22,217 bonds were purchased between 12 April 2019 and 15 February 2024. Full stop. This would cumulatively add up to 44,434 data sets, since there are two silos of information. In other words, the compilation of this information would be a time-consuming process. Full stop. Next main para. The crux of the submission of the SBI is that the matching of information to ascertain who contributed to which political party is a time-consuming process, since the information is maintained in two separate silos. Full stop. Now, the operative directions which have been issued by this court, as reproduced earlier, the operative directions of this court directed the SBI to disclose the transactions as set out in direction B and direction C extracted above. Full stop. SBI submits in its application itself that the donor details and redemption details are available, albeit in separate silos. Full stop. In other words, the directions which have been issued by this court require SBI to disclose information which is already available to it. Next para. At this stage, it would be material to refer to the FAQs on electoral bonds published by the SBI, which states that the Know Your Customer documents must be submitted by the purchaser each time that the bond is purchased, irrespective of whether the purchaser has a KYC verified SBI account. Full stop. That is, वहां फुटनोट दे दीजिए और उसको FAQ क्वेश्चन नंबर 16 जजमेंट से मैं आपको बाद में बताता हूं कहां से लेना है आपको. That is one set of documents, into brackets, the electoral bond application form, comma, KYC documents, and pay in slip can, bracket complete, can only be used to purchase one electoral bond. Full stop. Contributors who have an SBI account, as well as those who do not, have to submit the electoral bond application, know your customer documentation, and proof of payment through NEFT, check, or demand draft. Full stop. Thus, the details of the electoral bonds which have been purchased and which have been directed to be disclosed by this court are readily available. Next. The FAQ, similarly, the FAQs on electoral bonds published by the SBI with respect to the redemption of bonds states that each political party can only open one current account for electoral bond redemption. Full stop. The current account could be opened by the political party only in 4 authorized branches in Chennai, Kolkata, Mumbai, and New Delhi. Full stop.
There are 29, factually, nothing turns on that.
All right,
There are 29
authorized.
designated branches.
29 designated branches.
Yes.
Full stop.
They're in the 4 cities or other places also?
No, all over the country. All over the country, brother. Not in these 4 places.
Thus, information about a political party's encashment of electoral bonds would be stored only in these branches, which would be clearly accessible. Full stop. Slips and other details would have to be, submitted to the main branch. Full stop. There is no dispute about the fact, as there cannot be, that this process was duly followed. Full stop. Together with the application which has been filed by SBI for the extension of time, ADR has filed a contempt petition in which it submits that the information which was directed to be disclosed by this court can easily be disclosed by SBI because of the unique number which is printed on the electoral bond. Full stop. Irrespective of whether the unique identification number, which is not discernible to the naked eye, will enable the disclosure of details, the submissions of SBI in the application sufficiently indicate that the information which has been directed to be disclosed by the court is readily available. Next. In view of the above discussion, the miscellaneous application filed by SBI seeking an extension of time for the disclosure of details of the purchase and redemption of electoral bonds until 30 June 2024 is dismissed. Full stop. SBI is directed to disclose the details by the close of business hours. Yeah, okay. 12 March 2024. Full stop. As regards the ECI, we direct that ECI shall compile the information and publish the details in its official website no later than by 7 days. 1 week. By 15 March, by 5 p.m. on 15 March 2024. Full stop. During the pendency of the proceedings before the Constitution Bench, ECI had, in compliance with the interim orders passed by this court, filed its statements which have been maintained in the custody of the court. Full stop. Copies of the statements which were filed by ECI before this court would be maintained in the office of the ECI. Full stop. ECI shall publish the details of the information which was supplied to this court in pursuance of the interim orders on its website. Full stop. The miscellaneous application the SBI shall file an affidavit of its chairman and managing director upon compliance with the directions which have been issued above. Stop. While we are not inclined to exercise the contempt jurisdiction at this stage, bearing in mind the application which was submitted for extension of time, we place SBI on notice that this court may be inclined to proceed against it for willful disobedience of the judgment if SBI does not comply with the directions of this court as set out in its judgment dated 15 February 2024 by the timelines indicated in this order. Full stop. The miscellaneous application for extension of time shall accordingly stand dismissed. Contempt petitions shall stand disposed of at this stage in the above terms.
My lord, I just want to say one thing, my lord, because I don't want tomorrow to be again at the end of Mr. Prashant Bhushan's contempt. Your lordships have said disclose B and disclose C. The directions, we will disclose both of that. That is easy. Correlating the purchase with the beneficiary is not something which we are required to do. Then it's easy.
When my lord, the chief justice dictated the order, it is very clear. There is no scope for any confusion in what is dictated in the court.
Lordship.
We are grateful.
Lordship, one other diary number, which is the contempt of matter related, diary number 11296. Lordship, please stand. Yes.